The movie is about a girl who has recently moved to a new neighborhood and happens to rent a weird apartment with even weirder neighbors. Hyun-jin wants to rent an apartment in the town so she can work while she studies for the civil service examinations. The landlord suggests she get a hotel room instead, but it is too expensive an option to consider. She is told that the apartment she is looking to rent is empty, mainly because of the unpredictable situation of housing these days. He claims it is also because the neighbors are unsophisticated. Hyun-jin already seems uneasy about the apartment's foretold condition. She arrives at her apartment with all her luggage. She is welcomed by a sound of a flute, a signal it's not that lonely, at least. She walks up the stairs to find two kids sitting on a carpet. She smiles at them and asks them which apartment they live in. The kids simply stare back and don't answer. Hyun-jin is unsettled by their reaction and bids them goodbye. The scene is the start of a series of events that prove the abnormality of the place and its people. Most importantly, it is setting the atmosphere for the horrific journey. She looks around her apartment, and her look is a mixture of sadness and fear. She hears a knock on the door. The neighbor next to her apartment looks at her and is disappointed that it's a woman the apartment has been rented to. She doesn't hide her disappointment and goes on to spew negative remarks her way, going as far as to ask her not to be noisy and not to bother her. Hyun-jin is taken aback by the rude behavior. She notices the neighbor's daughter standing behind her, sad and scared. Something about her expression indicates there is something secretive happening to her. Hyun-jin is, as usual, going about her day at her workplace. Her owner offers her to go with him to the town center, but she declines, saying she has plans. The laborers at the machine shop are now gone, and she is locking up the place before leaving when she hears a machine churn. Puzzled as to who is still in there, she unlocks the gate and steps in. The churning noise gets louder, and now all the machines around her, one by one, start working without an operator. She hears a distinct sound and walks over in its direction. She sees one of the men still inside, forcefully hitting something. She sees a man's leg underneath him and is taken aback. The man strikes the other down and blood splatters across his face. He looks back at her before she runs for her dear life. The victim is the owner she spoke to earlier. She is running away from the place as fast as she can when a car stops in front of her, and out comes the man who was deceased just a few minutes ago. Flustered, she runs away back home. Still trying to understand what has happened, she lies down on her bed and stares into space. She hears something from the other apartment and knocks on the wall to ask them to stop. She complains the next day to her landlord, who tells her that it is probably her fault, as the neighbors complained of her being loud and rude. Her expression is a mix of surprise and confusion because she hasn't done anything wrong. She gets fired from her job. While in the bathroom, she hallucinates a man speaking to her in a foreign language and holding up a pipe wrench. He has the same tattoo as the murderer from earlier. The pipe wrench belongs to her. She is on her way back when she finds a man collapsed on the street. He has the same tattoo. The increasing association of the tattoo with abnormal behavior symbolizes something secretive and bigger is at play. The neighbor's daughter is involved in theft at the local store. The owner is angry at her and is about to report her to the cops when her son steps in and makes a deal with her to help her in return for something. She goes over to his place, but is locked inside before he tries to seduce her. The next day, the civil officer visits when she notices the shop owner's son trying to unlock Hyun-jin's apartment. She chases him down before they end up at the shop, and the owner throws her out, claiming her son to be innocent. Hyun-jin meets a new friend at the bookstore, and they become good friends over time. She returns home to find her neighbor, who asks her if she has seen his pets. She has, but lies that she hasn't. He knows this, but still goes on to invite her to a dinner at his place sometime. Later, she finds out that a whole family lost their lives at her apartment because of their father, who poisoned everyone. The neighbor's daughter is unhappy with her family and expresses the desire for the same fate. She also tells her that she saw a dream where all the people she hated lost their lives, the people being the shop owner and her son. The next day, the high schooler's mom asks Hyun-jin to tutor her daughter. It's the start of a close relationship between the two. Joo-hee warns her that her mom is scamming her and that she doesn't have the money to pay her. They are struggling to make ends meet. Her dad was involved in scams some years back and hasn't worked ever since. Yet, he wears a suit and tie every morning, pretending to go to work, and returns home late at night. Her mom sees things, and Joo-hee thinks she started exhibiting these patterns right after they moved into the apartment. Hyun-jin understands, and is still willing to help her out with her studies whenever she likes. Her friend is right behind her as Hyun-jin sips her coffee. He startles her, and she ends up spilling it on his shirt. She is pissed that he keeps stalking her, but then eases into being around him when they drink together at the apartment. Hyun-jin opens up to her friend like an open book. She entrusts him with her past and her strained relationship with her mom, expressing her resentment towards her and the complicated events that have occurred in her life. She breaks down, and he comforts her. They are sharing a passionate moment when Hyun-jin sees Joo-hee standing by her bedroom door, looking down. She looks for her, but she is gone. He takes her out to dinner, and they share a pleasant evening. Hyun-jin can be seen to display more colors of her personality, as she expresses her desire to want more from life, thanks to him. This vulnerability is new to her, and she likes him. Joo-hee is in the middle of a fight with the guys from her class, one of whom is asking her to give him his cigarettes back. He resorts to personal attacks, like sleeping with the guy from the grocery store for a cigarette. Hyun-jin happens to be crossing nearby when she overhears the commotion. Later that evening, Joo-hee and Hyun-jin are studying together. When Hyun-jin asks her what she witnessed earlier, she says she works part-time to earn some money. Hyun-jin asks her about her workplace, but Joo-hee doesn't tell her. Joo-hee seems to be getting comfortable with the idea of using her to earn money. They hear Joo-hee's mom singing, something she does when she is drunk. Hyun-jin hears a loud thud, and before she knows it, Joo-hee is gone. The crucial clue to what's about to play in the next scene is the open cupboard, where Hyun-jin last saw the pipe wrench that she had thrown away. Her suspicion lands her by the grocery store, where she sees Joo-hee go inside. The next day, the grocery store boy and his mother are found deceased. Hyun-jin confronts Joo-hee about her whereabouts that night, but she refuses to accept that she was at the store. Hyun-jin is starting to learn about Joo-hee's true character, and is struggling to understand why she would do such things. Her mom asks Hyun-jin if she has seen her, as she wasn't home last night. She is worried that her daughter is selling her body. Hyun-jin asks Joo-hee if she has slept with her dentist, to which she admits that she has. She is distraught, as she explains that she hasn't received an allowance ever since they went broke. She has to pay for everything herself. The odd thing here is, it's the mother who sends her to the dentist. Hyun-jin is stuck in this cycle of going back and forth between the two members of a family that is weird to the core. She doesn't know who to believe. Still, she appears to care a lot for Joo-hee, like a younger sister, perhaps because of her complicated relationship with her own mother. Joo-hee's dad is being loud, trying to fix something with a hammer, and apologizes to Hyun-jin for his bad manners. The change is swift, but his threatening tone causes Hyun-jin to step back into the wall, as Joo-hee's dad explains that he slaughters his pigs because they won't grow fat. The hammer is near her head. She runs back into her apartment when Joo-hee calls her. Panting for air and sweating buckets, she asks if Joo-hee is okay. She doesn't answer this question. The suspense in her voice is through the roof, as she asks her if she will come over. The door opens to reveal a bruised Joo-hee, and Hyun-jin is worried sick about her condition. Not answering any of Hyun-jin's questions about this, she tells her that it's her birthday. She is depressed that no one appreciates her existence. Hyun-jin's her only friend. They share some beer, leaving the cake for later. The scene is suspenseful, and at the end of the encounter, Hyun-jin is still worried and puzzled. The door shuts, indicating that Joo-hee has left her apartment in the middle of the night once again. Hyun-jin's instincts tell her that something isn't right. She leaves the apartment, searching for Joo-hee, when she hears her footsteps from the upper floor. Joo-hee's behavior from earlier are clues as to what she is about to do next, and Hyun-jin's instincts are catching up to this. Alarmed, she rushes up the stairs as fast as she can. It's a matter of seconds before Joo-hee decides into her own hands. Hyun-jin is struggling to breathe as she makes it to the rooftop. She stops in her footsteps, afraid that her suspicion is turning into reality. She screams Joo-hee's name and begs her to step down from the edge, but she fails to save her. The civil officer visits. Questions boggle the mind about what happened to Joo-hee and her parents. She knocks at Hyun-jin's door. Much to everyone's surprise, Hyun-jin lets her in. They sit at the table where the candlelit cake sits, in contrast to Joo-hee's soul. They both share a tense atmosphere. The officer turns out to be Hyun-jin's mother. They make some small talk until, suddenly, she calls her by the name Joo-hee. Hyun-jin loses her temper and asks her why she called her by the young girl's name. She is puzzled, because Joo-hee last night. The mother becomes increasingly worried by her daughter's unusual behavior, as Hyun-jin thinks she isn't Joo-hee, but her mother tries to convince her that she is. The characteristic knock at the wall flares up the suspense in the room. The knock is indeed a sign that she is hallucinating, and has been all this while. Head down, she sits with her knees curled up. She sees Joo-hee sitting at the chair by her study table. She starts playing with her hair when she notices her mother. She uses the wrench from earlier and smacks it into her mother's head. Her aura has changed. She's cold and heartless as she curses and sits by the body, staring into space. The body is bleeding out as she sits there, without a care in the world. The scene is unsettling to watch. Joo-hee sits idle with a blank expression, a white shirt stained with blood and blood splattered across her face. Kyung-soo arrives at the scene and notices the body. Hyun-jin stares at him blankly, eyes so cold she is unrecognizable. He runs out of her apartment in fear and horror. She puts away her shirt and leaves her apartment. The kids from earlier are seen entering the apartment next to her. She goes up to the rooftop. She seems happy and relieved. She smokes a cigarette on the haunted apartment's rooftop, peaceful and happy.